Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the category of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. It is a bit late, but this is the only chance I could publicly congratulate Mr. Speaker, State Member for Lake Macquarie, for being unanimously appointed as the Speaker of this House. Also, congratulations to Madam Deputy Speaker, State Member for Wallsend, Mr. Assistant Speaker, State Member for Strathfield, and all the other temporary speakers of this House. As a new State Member in this House, I feel like we are in a good place and in good hands. We have speakers that are diverse in all its meanings, backgrounds, heritage, gender, city and country, and are fair and seem to be fair and independent. Do I get a tick?
Yes.
Okay.
Mate, you're doing all right anyway.
Okay. I acknowledge all the state members, special guests in the chamber, families and friends, members of the communities. Today is the 21st of June 2023, in the middle of winter here in Sydney, Australia. Today is probably one of the shortest days in the Southern Hemisphere. Thinking of the 21st of June, I am reminded that this week is Refugee Week. We here in Australia are celebrating Refugee Week. The theme is finding freedom. About 1 month ago, I asked the Government Whip Office and member for Monaro to kindly allocate to me a day to do my inaugural speech, and I said I could do it quite soon if required. I understand that we have quite a number of new MPs this time, and therefore the allocation process may take a little longer. I was allocated today, and I was so happy realizing that today it is part of Refugee Week, as I was also a boat refugee, and something I'm very proud of. In a lot of my CVs, I would state that I was a refugee, a boat person, as if that is one of my qualifications, one of my work experience or life experience. I think to myself sometimes, you don't choose your path, a special position, or a special date, but the path, position, or date chooses you. The only complaint I have is tonight, it is the same night as Origin NRL Game 2. I have had the privilege in the past month or so to hear of so many excellent inaugural speeches by the new members. The standards of the speeches have gone higher and higher and higher. Sometimes being a new MP in this chamber feels like going back to high school or university. Question times are more like high school. And being new MPs, we would look around, guessing the other person or persons in the room, like as if we are looking at the cover of a book and guessing the story in the book. But I quickly realized that we cannot judge a book by its cover. Through these inaugural speeches, I realized that all the members are in many ways exceptional leaders in their local area. In many ways, deserve to be here. This reminds me of a quote I learned in high school by Thomas Edison: "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." The inaugural speeches have been informative, educational, funny, entertaining, emotional, inspirational, and much more. I would try and hope to have a combination of all that and live up to the standards of this House so far to please the difficult MPs and the special guests here in the gallery today. Got my tissues ready. I'm also advised that this would be the only time the MPs would be well behaved. Would not interrupt me or interject me. Yeah. What I can say from the outset is I may not be the best speech maker or the best speech writer, but I do have a real story to tell you and to this House. My story is not unique, but it's quite common in southwestern Sydney and in many other major cities in Australia, America, Canada, France, England, New Zealand, and other free nations. My father, Mr. Kung Vo, former president of Vietnamese community in Australia and New South Wales and current chair of the Vietnamese Former Pilots Association of the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, is here today. He was a helicopter pilot, trained in America for about 2 years, and participate in the Vietnam War, which ended in 1975. In March 1975, about 1 month before the end of the Vietnam War, his helicopter with about 14 people on board was shot down in central Vietnam, near Da Nang. He was imprisoned as a political prisoner for a total of about 7 years. After coming out of prison, like many others in the country, we knew we could not live under the Vietnamese communist regime, and so we planned our escape from Vietnam. Nearly 1 year passed, and towards the end of 1982, our parents planned to escape Vietnam, but would not tell us young kids, just in case we unintentionally revealed same to the authorities and they would capture us. Our parents would tell us that we are going on a holiday to visit our grandparents. Us kids were quite excited. We are going on a holiday? However, in our first attempt in September 1982, we did not succeed, and my mother and my 3 older brothers, all under 18 at the time, were captured by the Vietnamese authorities. I remember we were sunk in mud, sometimes to waist deep. Also, I could remember vividly the sounds of the gunshot, bang, to the sky, to alert and threaten us before they captured us. Lucky for us, all the grown-up men over 18 years old in our family, including my father, left the scene before we were captured, and so my mom and us 4 boys only stayed in the police cells for 1 night and released home. They took all my mother's gold and money before releasing us. Soon thereafter, we planned for another escape, and this time we were successful. On the 9th of December 1982, this time my family, which consisted of my parents, the 4 boys, including me, and 1 uncle, escaped Vietnam in a small boat of about 128 people. 128 people, and the boat was 12 meters long, 3 meters wide. We went on a journey for about 4 days and 4 nights. We did not have a lot of food, but mostly drank water, and there was not a lot of water going around. During the nights, we would hear people praying to Jesus and Buddha and whichever God that would help us get to the shores of freedom. I'm told by my mother, Anne Lee, who is here today, that there were many dolphins which followed the boat. She believed this was a sign of luck for at least safety from the sharks. She also told me there were heavy rain and dangerous storms, and the boat was nearly broken. At night, we saw an oil rig and waited on the morning before doing anything. In the morning, my father jumped down and swam across about 100 meters from the boat to the oil rig. And when he got to the other side, all the people on our boat clapped and cheered. I can clearly remember this moment of hope. He spoke to the people there inside the oil rig. Then a big Dutch commercial ship came by, and we were very lucky to be rescued and taken to Malaysia. I consider we were the lucky ones, as we have heard and read on Google the many stories of other leaking and rickety boats drifting in the high seas for weeks and sometimes months. We have heard many stories of pirates who robbed, violently assaulted, and sexually assaulted the innocent people on board, killed and threw them overboard. We also have heard starving people resorting to cannibalism, eating the flesh of dead humans on board to survive, especially on boats which drifted for weeks or months. Between 1975 to 1995, the number of boat people leaving Vietnam and arriving safely in another country totaled almost 800,000. This is just by boat. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, between 200,000 to 400,000 boat people died at sea. We would never know the exact numbers and the exact names, as the Vietnamese authorities would never provide the information of the boat who tried to escape the country. This means, just based on these figures, this means that for every 2 or 3 people who arrived safely by boat, at least 1 person had died. This means that choosing to be a boat refugee is a very risky and dangerous decision to make. You will be lucky, very lucky, to be alive, safe, and physically and psychologically normal. When we were rescued on the Dutch commercial ship, I can remember we were given food, congee, and water, and kids were given condensed milk. I felt the love between human beings again. We did not receive this from our own people, or at least from the authorities in power. We were taken to Bidong Island. Lucky I've got my tissue. We were taken to Bidong Island, a refugee place in Malaysia. I can remember the waterfalls, the beaches, the endless grass fields and plants, and all I can remember was happiness and feeling safe. Thank you. Even though it was a modest refugee area, my memories were as though we were all in paradise. Sometimes when I eat instant noodles or drink condensed milk, my subconscious mind remembers the time of me being on the ship that rescued us and at the refugee camp in Malaysia. After about 2 months in the refugee camp, we were taken by a boat to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. We then flew to Australia in February 1983, which is about 40 years ago. I was 6 years old at the time. We were welcomed. We were welcomed with open arms. We were treated with love and respect we could not find in our own motherland. We stayed at Endeavour Hostel in Maroubra, in the eastern parts of Sydney. A charitable organisations such as the Smith Family, St. Vincent de Paul, Salvation Army gave us necessities like clothes, kitchenwares, wardrobes, toys, and so much help. Sometimes it was hard to find our sizes, and the clothes would have been a few sizes bigger. But we were always so happy and so grateful. Since our hostel was in the eastern side of Sydney, like many other refugees, we settled in Marrickville, a suburb not so far from the hostel, and which has a community similar to us, and shops that sold food and groceries which we needed. I went to public schools, both primary and high school in Marrickville. When I was in year 1 and year 2, my friends and I were also former refugees, would draw pictures of boats on high seas, soldiers and guns, etc. Other children, like my own children right now, would draw animals, parks, houses, cars, planes, and toys. However, deep inside me, I thought I was very lucky, and our stories were always more adventurous and interesting. I did not go to preschool or kindergarten, but started school in the middle of year 1. I repeated year 2, and this is a day, and to this day I don't even know if this was due to me having learning difficulties, or was it because a classmate of mine unfortunately got ran over by a car and was in hospital for a few months. And so I needed to repeat with him to keep him company and to recover. Yeah. I actually excelled in class after this, from always being at the bottom of the class to one of the top students in the class. During my adolescence, my boys like this. During my adolescence, we watched a lot of Hong Kong movies, including Jackie Chan, Chow Yun Fat, Andy Lau, and Bruce Lee. I told them I want to mention Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. They really like it. I told them I'll make a speech and mention a lot of important people. They weren't interested, but were more interested in Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. At the time, I idolized Bruce Lee and respected him for revealing and teaching his martial arts to the Western world, and for being so successful in the Western film industry during my prime, with more hair, of course. Some people thought I looked like Bruce Lee. What the hell? Boys like it, like, but many more people thought I looked more like the comedian in the film. They called me Bruce. During the first few years of high school, my grades dropped. Therefore, my dad asked a family friend named Mr. Pat, a former English teacher, to teach me, mostly English. At the time, I wasn't interested in learning. Mr. Pat told me, I quote, "I can walk a horse, but I cannot make a drink." I didn't understand it at the time, but I think it meant he could try to teach me, but he could not make me learn. I still wasn't much interested in learning. The weeks went by. He was very patient. He told me another quote, "A pen is mightier than a sword." And he explained why that interested me a little bit more. He also sang songs by Elvis Presley. Now that interested me. From this point, my wife, Mai Lin, who is here today, who is a very good singer, might think that's probably where I got my karaoke singing skills from. From then on, I studied hard and listened to everything he said. I also found my love of learning and reading books again. My parents' words then changed from, "Remember to study more," to, "Don't study too much, son. Remember to take care of yourself too, okay?" I got into Sydney University, studied double degrees, Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Laws. In class, the students were more interested in doing the summer clerks and getting into the top 5 companies. During holidays, I was more interested in reading my self-help books or psychology books. At the time, I was so fascinated by these self-help books and the human mind. The human mind controls everything in your body and also controls how we interact with people. When I started finding work in 2001, I started out in Bankstown for 1 year, then 2 years in Fairfield. This was when I truly used my law studies and applied to the real world. I learned so much. There were so many interesting cases in southwestern Sydney and especially in the Fairfield city area. In 2004, at the age of 26 years old, I started my own law practice in Kenley Heights, which is near Cabramatta. At the time, I moved there because of work and the love of the area and its people. At the time, I moved there not to have the word MP next to the name Trevo, but purely to have the name Trevo next to the area Cabramatta, to its people, its communities, and its vibrant culture and activities. This was just after the time when many families would be moving their family out of Cabramatta and tried not to mention that name or be associated anything with its communities. Shortly after that, I became the youngest president of the Vietnamese community in New South Wales at the age of 28, and then at the time, the youngest president of the Vietnamese community in Australia at the age of 35. My love for the community and the area, local area continued. I joined the Labour Party in 2010 and held many executive positions in the party and became the Cabramatta branch secretary in 2017. All of my 3 children were born in our local Fairfield hospital. They're here today. In 2019, I was number 10 on the upper house ticket for the Labour Party. In 2021, I was on the council ticket running for Fairfield Council. However, many people knew my aim and love were always to represent Cabramatta. Sometimes I think after 40 long years since arriving in Australia as a boat refugee, we have finally reached our destination. We have found freedom. Freedom to think, to speak, to believe, to participate, and freedom to choose the path and the political party we want. Labour Party for me, of course. I am so privileged and honoured to be the first MP in this New South Wales Parliament to have Vietnamese heritage. New South Wales is the most populated state in the country. This house is the People's House, the oldest parliament in Australia, the place where democracy in this great nation started. During my time in this parliament, I want to be a voice for my local area, to be a strong advocate for the issues that really matter in my area, and try to get the necessary funding where it is needed the most. During my election campaign, I heard so many suggestions for our Fairfield Hospital, suggestions from many members, residents, including from the current councillors and mayor. I commend the Labour Party for realising that Fairfield Hospital needs the necessary funding. We don't need to be like Liverpool Hospital or Westmead or the Royal North Shore Hospital, but we need to provide the essential services necessary to help local residents and save lives. As I said before, I went to public schools. I am a beneficiary of our public education system. Therefore, I will always advocate to help our public schools and give every child and student in this state the same opportunity regardless of their postcode, their parents' backgrounds, and their personal situation. We will help them be the best that God has created them to be. Some of my concerns for the short term are hospitals, schools, communities, small businesses, housing, affordability, cost of living, building infrastructures, maximising potential in southwestern Sydney, especially with the coming of the second airport, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For the long term, I will continue to introduce people and the public to the positive things of Cabramatta, such as our diverse communities, all living relatively harmoniously like a mini world reduced to a small area. An example of multiculturalism at its best. Introduce the vibrant cultural activities, the delicious food, the people with so many stories ready to share with you and the world, and many, many more reasons. If that doesn't work, maybe the last thing you could try is come and visit Cabramatta. Trevo, the state member of Cabramatta, he seems okay. He might even be good. I admire Pope St. John Paul II, who died in 2005, beatified on 1st of May 2011, and canonized on the 27th of April 2014. By pure chance, 2 weeks after he was canonized and became a saint, my second son, Christian, 2 months at the time, was baptized, and we gave him the saint name, John Paul. During the time Pope St. John Paul II died, he got beatified and canonized, I had opportunities to read, watch, and know more about him. Not only was he... Mr. Speaker, can I get an extension of time, please?
Yes, I was wondering if you would notice that, but we were going to be indulgent, but the question is that the member's time be extended. I'll put the question, all about opinion say aye. Aye. Please, your time has been extended. As long as you want.
Thank you. No, only 10 minutes. We have to watch NRL after this. Origin. Yeah. Not only was he a great religious leader, he knew how to apply practically to the real world. I give an example which may be relevant to us now, this year. Nearly 40 years ago, on the 29th of November 1986, Pope John Paul II was in Alice Springs, Australia. He addressed the crowd as follows: "Dear brothers and sisters, it is a great joy for me to be here today in Alice Springs and to meet so many of you, the Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders of Australia. I want to tell you right away how much the Church esteems and loves you and how much she wishes to assist you in your spiritual and material needs." And then he went on a few things, and then he went on to say, "Your culture, which shows the lasting genius and dignity of your race, must not be allowed to disappear. Do not think your gifts are worth so little that you should no longer bother to maintain them. Share them with each other and teach them to your children. Your songs, your stories, your paintings, your dances, your languages must never be lost." On the 3rd of May this year, 2023, we had a seminar run by New South Wales Parliament on doing inaugural speeches. And there was a great book suggested to us to read titled On Speaking Well by Peggy Nonen. She wrote some of President Ronald Reagan's speeches. On the same day, on the 3rd of May 2023, on the same day, I went to 3 bookstores in the city, and they said they had to order it from overseas and might take 1 month. So I couldn't get the book, but I found a book I had always wanted to buy for the last 30 years. The book was called The Road Less Travelled by Scott Peck. But more importantly, the other thing I got was by pure chance. I ran into Stan Grant, my first time and only time in real life. This was before he stepped down from Q&A on the 22nd of May 2023. At one of the bookstores near QVB, he was quickly looking for a book, and his body language told me he was in a rush and not comfortable with people recognizing him. I asked the person at the bookstore if that was Stan Grant, and they confirmed, yes. I went over and told him how much I liked his work and to please keep up with all his wonderful work. I then asked him if he supported the Yes campaign, First Nations Voice of Parliament, and he said yes. I told him, he told me, and he said yes. I told him I will also be voting yes. He said, "Thank you, brother." I said I would try to encourage others to vote yes. And he said, "Thank you, brother," again. I knew he didn't know who I was. So before I went, I introduced myself as Trevo, the new member for Cabramatta. There you go. My answer to the yes campaign was answered. But soon after, I asked myself the question of why he said, "Thank you, brother," twice. I think there may be 4 possible reasons. A, B, C, D, right? A, after just a few months campaigning and being in state politics, I was looking much older, and so he referred me as around his brother's age. Or B, it's just a way that people refer to each other, just like the Australian, the Aussie way of saying, thanks, mate. Or C, like as referred earlier when St. John Paul II referred to the crowd as in the eyes of God, we're all brothers and sisters. Or D, by acknowledging the Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders, I have been accepted into their country and treated as a brother. I'd like to I think the answer is C and D. In the eyes of God, we're all brothers and sisters, and I have also been accepted into their country. Aboriginal Australians have lived in Australia for more than 65,000 years. Therefore, Australia is home to the oldest continuing living culture on earth. This is something we should always preserve, cherish, and celebrate. I couldn't get here without the help of so many people. I'd like to thank my wife, Marlene, and children, Brandon, Christian, Evelyn, my parents, Mr. Kung Vo, Mrs. Ann Lee, my brothers, Tien and Darren, and their families, and also Mai Lu and Amanda Vo. I'd like to thank Nick Lalich, former state member for Cabramatta, who gave me so many valuable advice and guided me through the way. He was a long-standing and respected politician in our area. I thank Dale Bennett, former councillor of Fairfield City Council, and Guys and Gary, former state member for Fairfield, for their valuable support. I thank Councillor George Basha, who helped manage the campaign, and Councillor Kin Lee, Councillor Kaman Lazar, who are all here today. Also, the Honourable Jason Clare, Honourable Chris Bowen, Honourable Tony Sheldon, who all helped me during the campaign, and Analak Chanevang for his valuable advice. I thank the many volunteers, including Daniel Griffiths, Eng Pho, Darren Vo, Tin Vo, Phước Nguyen, and Lang Nguyen, Mickey Ngo, Donson Fitrasi, Joseph Huang, former Councillor Sarah Yemas, former Councillor Adrian Wong, Dominic Leonello, Grace Siciliano, Alan David, former Councillor Nan Tran, Mỹ, Thị Mỹ, Tiak, An Ngọc Dang, Quy Tran, not here, unfortunately not here with us anymore, but I believe his twin sister is here today. Hu Tran was always very supportive of me, and also many others. I thank our leader, Chris Mintz, and Deputy Prukar for their leadership and vision. Also, I'd like to thank Reese Patton from the New South Wales Labor Head Office, and especially Bob Nanva and Dom Offner for being quiet operators, but very effective, making decisions based mostly on science, facts, and evidence. The many organisations and communities supporting me during the campaign, I thank Andrew Nguyen and all the members of Labour Party Cabramatta branch, Wunthem Vong Saya from the Laos community, Walter Robertson, Cabramatta Diggers Club, Anle from Vitan, Li Shen Sun and the New South Wales Workers Union, Jennifer Tran and the Chin Lin Chinese Association Incorporation, James Chan and Vincent Kong from the Australian Chinese Buddhist Society, Sawathay Ek from Australian Southeast Asian Network, members of the Vietnamese community in Australia, New South Wales, and its community radios and media, the Assyrian National Council of Australia, Hung Lee from the Australian Chinese Tiu Chow Association, David Nguyen, and many others. I thank everyone helping me along the way, so many to name all, but I know who you are, I think of you. People in the area might say they are proud of me, but I want to let everyone in the gallery know that I am so, so proud of you all. Your stories, your ideals, your courage, your sacrifices, your resilience, your hard work, what you have done for your families, communities, and for your area. You, your families, your communities, and your members are the reasons why I will always continue to work for the local community and for our local area. This house, the people's house, is my house as much as your house. We will always welcome you. This country, Australia, is the best country in the world. We have been calling Australia and this wonderful state of New South Wales as our home, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to contribute and treat this country and state as our home. Finally, I want to acknowledge and thank God for God's blessings and grace to this world and to this country. Thank you for listening.